What's up, everybody, and welcome back. And full disclaimer, we took a week off. Usually we start off by saying the other guy dropped out. I think both of us did. So, we couldn't find any stand-ins for us last week, but fear not, because we're back this week, and seemingly a lot's happened in the challenge world. But Mike, what's up? Good to be speaking with you again.
Yeah, I'm sorry that this time I was the guest that dropped out, but I'm glad to be back. And you're definitely right. We no longer have All-Stars 4 to watch, but we have another season on the horizon and another one that is just about finished filming. So we have a lot more coming down the pipeline. So I think a break was needed.
Yeah, I'm always, I think I'm more of an advocate these days for challenge off seasons than maybe in the past. I think probably around the trilogy era, we had like a little bit more of a digestion period where seasons weren't like coming down our throat every week. But I guess in the current climate with all the spinoffs, we're so like, I don't want to call the fandom like jaded, but in a sense, like we all are kind of like spoiled with challenge content at this point, like with like so many seasons, which, isn't a bad thing in some people's cases. But I like personally for me, having a little bit of a digestion, to kind of like, decompress, because then it allows me to like fully, be able to like enjoy and sink my teeth into a new season. I think that the saying absence makes the heart grow fonder is definitely, I feel like, the right approach here. Which, hey, we've got at least a solid month and change till season 40 comes out. That's just been announced in the past, or got announced last week. So I guess before we hop into today's topic for the video, we might as well give our brief thoughts on not All Stars. Season 40's announcement, Battle of the Eras, which who knows, maybe in the future we'll do like a more like comprehensive podcast about that. But just briefly, I see that at least starting out, there's 4 different teams divided by eras. Obviously, season 1 to 10 is era 1, and then I believe it's 11 to 19 or. Yeah, is it 11? It's 11 to 19. Is
11 to 20.
11 to 20 for Era 2, and then 21 to 30, and then 31 to 39. With this announcement and the cast and the teams, what jumps out to you immediately when you saw that?
Well, the announcement, obviously we knew the cast going into it, but I'm really excited for it because I think that they did a really good job assembling this cast. Like, credit where it's due. Mm-hmm. I know everyone's going to be like, oh, well, Ashley should have been there, and she should have. Or, like, Wes should have been there. But, overall, like, compared to, like, Ride or Dies or Battle for a New Champion, like, this is a good cast. And there's a lot of names to look forward to. I really like that they're trying it with 4 teams. That's a different approach and probably going to make the beginning of the season at least a little bit fresh.
Yeah.
And there's just so many people that we haven't seen on the flagship show in decades that it's kind of hard not to find something to be excited about, and that's a telltale sign of a really good cast.
Yeah. Well, definitely a lot of fan service on this one, which I feel like is needed. It's been a while. Yeah, I definitely think that the team approach is definitely fresh. How long does that last? Your guess is as good as mine, but I've got a good guess. But I'm definitely excited that there's teams, because I feel like it gives me like a little bit of a Battle of the Seasons 2012 vibe, just like with a more stout cast, if that makes sense.
Yeah, a little bit, because there are people that are kind of, it's not so much based on your origin season, but all of the people in Era 1 overlap. All of the people in Era 2 overlap. So, like, for the most part, everyone's familiar with the people who are on their team, with a couple of exceptions. Like, we have Aviv, who's never done a season with Johnny Bananas before, which is just, like, wild to think that they've gone deep into the archives and found someone that's never met Johnny Bananas before. But here we are.
That's a great, yeah. That's like Aviv is the one because I mean, you've got a lot of people that technically haven't been on the flagship in a while, but like we've seen them on All Stars, like a Mark Long. I mean, Emily Schramm. Actually, Emily Schramm's we haven't seen her on any of the All Star shows. So that's one name that's just hasn't been seen. Period. On a legit season since what Rivals 2 probably. Yeah. I mean, she did Champ Stars too, but we haven't seen her on like any like legit capacity show since Rivals 2. And that's just one name. But there's a large portion of this cast that hasn't been on the flagship in a very long time. But Aviv is the one name that kind of is like, that's your out of nowhere left field addition. And, obviously she's on a team with, just solely speaking about the ladies here. You've got Cara Maria, Laurel, Emily, and those three are regarded from a, competitive standpoint as like arguably three of the top five, ladies to have ever appeared on the show. And if Kellyanne is your fourth best on your team, then I'd say your team's pretty good in the, female department. With Aviv, though, that is a pretty shocking addition, I would say. I would have, she's resurfaced a little bit through social media and going to like challenge events. Mm-hmm. So like it doesn't necessarily surprise me that she's back on their radar as much as it surprises me that, she would have been put on a season such as this, which is like kind of, and I'm not complaining about it, but I'm more so speaking that I'm like surprised that production actually pulled the trigger on it. Normally they would search for the more like, out there name, like a Sarah Rice or somebody that could have filled this like spot. But, who knows who they could have been. I mean, because when you look at some of the other ladies that probably were on their radar from this era, obviously Sarah's going to have, some demands that they might not be willing to meet. She's a therapist now. And then like Evelyn's just like a snowball's chance in hell of even stepping on the show again. Teresa, I don't think we'll ever see for some reasons, but like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I think they wanted to have someone on this cast that essentially plays the born again rookie role. Because everyone has, by nature, by design, everyone's done the show before. So we have no one where like this is your first season. I would have been a fan if they like, or I would have supported the idea if they like pulled in like a Chris Underwood from Survivor who won USA 2 and like put him on the cast as like the flagship rookie. But I think Aviv kind of plays that role. So it will be interesting to see if like she kind of flies under the radar because there is so much drama on that team with like the Cara Maria and Laurel division that you have. And we don't know how well she'll do, but we can see from social media that she's really fit and like remains very active. So you said Kellyanne's the fourth best girl. She could be the fifth best girl. So that's just kind of wild to think. The women on that team are stacked. I mean, I think all of the women on that team are stronger than Ryan. So,
selfishly, oh my God, my life. I didn't even really consider this, but like selfishly speaking, I would have loved to have seen Teresa on a team with Cara and Laurel, and then like Kellyanne and when I had her on my podcast a couple years ago, like shaded Teresa because that whole like West thing because. I mean, obviously it's water under the bridge now, but it would have been just like interesting to see Teresa on like a team full of like females that like just hate her guts probably. And like my fresh meat too, nostalgia with like seeing them, Laurel, her, and Cara together would have been like something I would have taken a liking to. One thing, when we're talking about born again rookies, actually, somebody who I would have loved to have seen been on Era 2 from the guys is CJ.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That would have been like a really good reach to reach back in time and bring him on the show. Definitely someone who's in great shape and hasn't done All Stars. So he's someone. I mean, I've had like very very limited communication with him, but he's a very nice guy.
Oh yeah,
like in real life. And I think he would be someone that would do well and really kind of rock the boat. But that's not who we got.
There's a couple Era 2 snubs on the guys' side, I feel. I feel MJ and Tyler should have seriously... Those are two guys that are technically two-time champions that kind of... You have to imagine at the very minimum, at least MJ would have been willing to do this. I mean, Tyler, I mean, who knows with his schedule? I think he's like somewhat of a teacher these days. But MJ, we see him training all the time and stuff on his Instagram stories. So you have to at least imagine that he would have been, willing to do this. And he's a recent champ, too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really glad that... I mean, obviously, Banana is going to be there. Banana says the word. He's on the cast.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that Nehemiah is back.
Yeah.
I think, if you watch All-Stars 1 and 2, I don't know what you were watching if you didn't see Nehemiah as, one of the main stars on that show. He really, stepped up, and especially on Season 2, kind of ran the ship. So it's interesting. I'm hoping we're going to kind of see that competitor this time around because I think he graduated from the School of Wes, and we're going to see someone like the telltale Wes antics come to the show through Nehemiah.
Yeah. Wes, obviously, but, that was more of his decision, so, it's not like he was snubbed. I put out a tweet that got a lot of traction, I think Friday might have been, about, I felt that Rogan was snubbed from Era 4, I feel. He's one of the only champions to have debuted in that era. And I think he would have actually brought something from not only a competitive perspective, but I think he's a messy cast member, but he delivered some good TV, I thought, in the short time that we had him. But
yeah. I mean, it's kind of a lawyer question, but I don't outright disapprove of it.
Yeah.
I don't think I don't hate the idea of him coming back at all. And I also think Turbo's missing. Maybe I'm in the minority here, but I became a big Turbo fan when he came onto Ride or Die's, just willing to fuck everything up. And I was like...
Oh, so did I. I like that version of him better than the Samurai version of him.
For sure. That, if you're someone that thinks you can beat the best, I want you to go in and be unafraid. I want you to go in and look, the top dogs, the Bananas Man, and whatever you want to call him, in the eyes and be like, yeah, I want you in elimination. He did that. So that's the type of competitor I want. That's the spirit that the old CT had. And, we need someone that will come in and do that and actually walk away with the title.
Yeah, I definitely... That I think he was definitely a missed person for. I think he might have probably filming Survivor All Stars or whatever the hell.
Yeah, they filmed that for 5 months or something wild.
Yes, so I don't think he would have been available. But I think Kailah would have been nice to have on Era 3 for the girls. Yeah, that. The one burning question on my mind is, do you think Dunbar received a call for this? Honestly?
Yeah.
To be on air? He probably, if he said yes, they definitely would have. You don't think they would have put him on?
No. I don't think he got the call. I think they'd be more interested in reintroducing him on maybe an All-Stars. Yeah. That does seem like something, he would have been good on All-Stars 2 or 3. But I think him being away for so long, it would just be out of the blue to have him pop up on Era 2. But wilder things have happened because Aviv is there.
Yeah, exactly. We're talking about born-again rookies. Well, the born-again rookie talk can be put on pause for right now because, we've compiled a list of names today that are the furthest thing from rookies, actually, in fact. We're going to be talking about probably the most notable people to have not won, but essentially in a nutshell, the title for this video is going to be ranking non-champions' chances of becoming one. So obviously, you guys realize there's going to be plenty of people on this show who have yet to have won, but we've got a list of people here who are probably the most notable people to have not won. And, we didn't include certain people, maybe if, like, they exited in, like, a not so great way, or, health or any other outside circumstances are preventing them from likely ever returning. We didn't include them on the list. So somebody like a Nelson, who, we're for all intents and purposes not going to be seeing again. We didn't include him. Otherwise, he would have been definitely somebody, good for this. Teresa, I didn't put on. Seems like, she's got some issues that she's not gonna be back. Like, I'm just gonna she's not coming back. And then so those are like a couple examples, and but yeah, no, and we're including people who have appeared semi recently, whether it be All Stars, Flagship, Battle for New Champion. So if you're somebody, let's just say like a Dustin Zito, who hasn't appeared since X's 2, like, we didn't include you on the list because, it's been like so long. And while you haven't won technically, and you have technically made a final, too hard to gauge how you would fare in like current day challenge world. Same thing with like a Jen Grijalva, who has appeared in many finals. In fact, at one point held the record for most finals without actually winning. She was a tough omission. However, we didn't include her either because, again, it's so hard to gauge how she would have done had she been back for, let's say, like an upcoming All-Stars, because while she might technically be more physically fit than she was back in the day, there's such an element to this game now that's social and political, and she hasn't met a lot of these people who have debuted since she's been gone. So it's just way too difficult to gauge how she might have done in a current day scenario. So with that being said, we've got a list here of people, and we're going to go down this list, and simply it's going to be a 1 to 10 ranking. 1 being like very likely not going to happen, like snowball's chance in hell. And if somebody's so fortunate enough to get a 10, that most likely means that we think it's more of like a when, not if. So yeah, simple enough, easy to follow, and without further ado, we'll hop right into this with probably the most notorious name to be synonymous with this video, and that would be Leroy. He's now holding the record for most finals without actually winning, and he's probably, outside of a couple of the ladies, he's probably the most notable guy. When you hear it come up about not winning a season and like if and when they'll ever win. We just saw him reach a final on All Stars 4 where he came up short yet again. I guess I'll give you the floor. 1 to 10. What do you give Leroy in terms of his chances to win?
Leroy, I root for him like every time, and I would love to see him win, but I don't really it's kind of hard to pinpoint like what's not working here, because the finals he's lost, like, there isn't like a consistent thing that is causing him to lose. Like, he just lost All Stars 4 because he couldn't like drink a cup on a he couldn't Pinocchio a cup into his mouth, like the weirdest thing in the world. But he's definitely strong, and he's definitely got endurance to like run a final. I almost think he'd be better off on the flagship show, where he has to run a long final, than on an All Stars where he has to play like botched games of Flip Cup. But do I think he could win? Eventually, maybe. Like, I give him a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of with you. He really is a true, like, 50-50. I think with him, to be honest with you, while he's good, I feel like he's not, like, great in one particular area. I mean, like, in his prime, he was obviously somebody, and even still probably today, not somebody you really want to see in in an elimination if it's physical, obviously, but those certain strengths that he excels in, such as physical eliminations, typically we don't really see those come into play in a final setting. A final requires you to be, in most finals, obviously All-Stars 4 was different, it requires you to like be pretty well versed in a lot of different areas, and I just kind of feel like, unfortunately, his problem has kind of always been that he's just never really been that well-rounded, in my opinion. I feel like he's kind of always just relied on his physical game, and we've seen puzzles and swimming trip him up, and obviously in the past politically, but some of his recent seasons where he's had shots to win, such as War of the Worlds 2, Double Agents, like those were some of his probably honestly best chances of winning. But when you're in a final and you're seeing somebody like CT and Double Agents, like I don't ever see Leroy being in a position where he would beat CT in a traditional final. So I think with him, it's more or less about the lucky breaks going your way to where, one season you might end up in a situation where you're in a final and, guys that you're going up against are like Ryan or like, you know what I mean? Like the chips just kind of have to fall in the right places, I feel like, for Leroy, which kind of makes it more of like a 50-50 type scenario. So I'm actually going to go ahead and agree with you there and probably go 5 out of 10.
Yeah, War of the Worlds 2 should have been his shining moment if there ever was one, because that was, at least the first half, a lot of speed and carrying the gurney, a lot of strength, and Leroy has that. Those are the areas where he excels. I think he can choke down the food or whatever they had to eat. Puzzles aren't his forte, and it ultimately cost him. He is someone, I will give him credit where it's due. Over the years, I've seen him improve his puzzles and swimming a little bit. He's not the best, but he has put effort there, and I think those are the areas where he'll really need to focus if he wants to pull out the victory. But then again, it could just be, a game of playing puppet with a solo cup, and what are you going to do?
Yeah, I think with him, it's it's really circumstantial. Like if he ends up on a season where, again, he gets fortunate that some people in the final are kind of even with him in terms of skill set, or he gets on a good team where somebody else can handle the puzzles or something, like the chips just kind of have to fall his favor. So that's why it's like a true 50-50. But staying on the, kind of similar sphere here is one of his real world roommates. We've got Nany up next. And Nany's in a similar boat as Leroy because they came in kind of around the same time. And they both are synonymous with when are they ever going to win? Will they ever win? I feel like Nany's, honestly, I hate to say it, but I'm probably going to give her more of a 4 out of 10.
Sure. It's funny because I kind of disagree. I think Nany has a decent shot in the right scenario, whereas Leroy, like you said, is not well-rounded. I think Nany is 5 out of 10 across the board. She can run, she's not the fastest. She can eat, but she's not Hunter or Ashley. She's not great with puzzles, but she can get through them. She's strong-ish, but she's still, kind of a petite girl, and she's not made of muscle like Jenny. I think with the right partner, she could win. But ultimately, there was ride or dies, and she was so close, and then kind of gave up. But also, spies, lies, and allies. Imagine if she said to Casey during that elimination, rather than just roll over and die and give it to Casey, she was no, this is my moment. This is my time. I'm not going to lose. And then she gets to pick CT and do that final leg. She could have won. She could have won if she manipulated Casey into losing. Like,
But she
I would
probably
never
should have in hindsight.
What was that?
She probably should have in hindsight. Casey
Yeah,
probably
but
should have.
they didn't know that that was going to be the reward for winning. They thought they were just going to stick around. But
Yeah.
like if she bribed Casey, she could have won. She could have won $500,000, split, given none of it to Tori, started a new life with Casey, and just run off into the sunset. But instead, she let Casey win. At least Casey did win, though.
Yeah, so she got a little bit of money, I'm sure, out of it.
Yeah.
Vicariously. Another person very synonymous with this same category, Aneesa. I'm just gonna be blunt and straight honest here. Like, I don't really need to beat around the bush or give some like very comprehensive analogy here or analysis. I'm going with a 1 out of 10. I just truly don't see a scenario in which Aneesa ever wins. Unfortunately, and I'm not saying this to like put her down or anything. I'm just like being honest. Like we saw her finish behind Big Easy on the All Stars 1 final. Yeah, it's hard to like really envision a world and where things just kind of go her way, even on a team. Like listen, she's smart, so like she'll have that to kind of like hang her hat on, but like you're gonna have other teams where somebody else might be smart, but they could actually run well. So it's kind of like, yeah, your strengths can only help you so far when your only main strength is your smarts. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Whereas Nany, just to close the circle there, I'd give her like a 6 out of 10. Aneesa, barring any production manipulation, I agree, it's a 1 out of 10. Aneesa, I think, especially off the show, she's a really kind-hearted person, and she does a great job of uplifting people, especially like voices that need to be risen and get amplified. But I'm giving her these compliments because I'm about to not be nice. I feel like betting on Aneesa is like betting on a donkey in a horse race. Like it's not gonna happen. Maybe something wild is going to change, but like she's gotten injured multiple times. She's not the fastest. With Jordan, she had like Tom Brady throwing her balls, and she was missing them. Like it's. I just don't know what more can be given to her that would help her win that she hasn't already received.
Yeah, I mean, she would have to probably end up in a carnival-like final, like All Stars 4, maybe, that'd be like her only. And again, that's the one we gave her 1 out of 10. That's the probably one time like she might win, and we don't even know if that would even benefit her, honestly.
But she's going to keep getting cast because people like us write her off.
Actually, yeah,
if she wins, that would be like the ultimate jaw on the ground shocker. Like it would be like watching a pig fly. Like you didn't think it could happen, but it happened, and now everyone's all excited for her. I will give her all her flowers if she wins. I don't care how. Like if she wins,
the app would break. That day in history would be where Twitter like has a like melts down. That would be like Cory next. And actually I'm feeling quite generous on this one because I think Cory is definitely somebody we've seen improve greatly from when he first started, because he came in on Bloodlines and he made the final there. His cousin helped out with the puzzles, and they could have honestly realistically won that season, Bloodlines. But then we saw him kind of come in and have a little bit of missteps, kind of in the same way that Tony was misstepping early on in his challenge career as well. Cory kind of was getting in his own way, both socially and honestly just shitting the bed physically. but then we saw him after kind of going on like a few seasons of a ban after Final Reckoning, get his head together. You know, he started a family, and he came back on Total Madness with a different mindset. You know, performed pretty well, I thought, in that final. I mean, he finished first on day one of the Total Madness final. Obviously, he didn't end up winning it. And then makes the final on Double Agents. You're going up against CT, though, so that's a tough hill to climb. And then he made the, because I didn't watch this, but I remember hearing about it. He made the USA, was it USA 2 or 1?
2.
2, right? He made the final of that, and correct me if I'm wrong. Did he get second on that?
Yeah, the first day of that final, he like completely bombed all the checkpoints, but then he kind of redeemed himself on the second day. Yeah, I have a lot of faith in Cory pulling out a win eventually. I think if you assessed Total Madness differently, if it was assessed the same way as War of the Worlds 1's final was assessed, in the sense that every stage was just added to your time and was a cumulative time, I think Cory would have won that. I think that he was the fastest person across the board. He was slower on day 2, which is what cost him, but he was the first to finish, like you said, on day 1. And this is not a conspiracy. I always think that they were going to have that elimination day 1, like that was his reward. He got to stage the elimination. But I think there's a world where he could have won that final if it was just based off of the cumulative times. And that tells me that he probably has the aptitude to win. I don't see him getting any worse over time, but I do think that he should probably focus on like a little bit on puzzles. Especially after USA 2, probably wants to focus on like being a little bit more realistic about his abilities. Maybe learn to like spell some words, because like his spelling was at like a second grade level during that final. But those things, he can, if he fixes that, he can probably win.
Yeah, honestly, for him, I'm probably giving him like a 7 out of 10. Because, you know, his puzzles, it's hard to look past. And then, like, you know, when you keep making finals but not winning them, you do kind of like get a reputation of like somebody that like, all right, this person we gotta watch for, like they go far each time. We can't let them go far, blah blah blah. So like, you know, he might like he won't have like the target on his back at times, but depending on the cast, they may look at him as like a threat if he's not connected socially. So that's why I don't give him like an 8 or a 9. I give him more of like a 7 out of 10, but I definitely feel like you said, like there is a very realistic world in which he will and would win. Like honestly, I would even encourage that he should consider, especially because of the shorter length in filming, he should consider going on an all-star season, because I really feel like he would probably be one of the favorites to win that.
Yeah, I honestly give Cory an 8 out of 10. Because he did well on USA 2, and it's getting to the point where he's getting really good at navigating the social aspects of the game, so him getting to a final repeatedly is fairly realistic.
Well, we got Amanda up next, and, you know, unfortunately, this is probably somebody that we should have been talking about, what, 6 years ago as being a champion already? Because I firmly believe her and Zach would have and should have won Final Record. I can't really say should have, because they did it. Well, Zach did it to them, and then they got kind of like rigged out of the game with that mercenary thing. But in a world in which they don't step off the platform, I think they go to the end and win it. Unfortunately, that's not the world we live in. So we got to analyze what we think Amanda's chances are in 2024, and I wish I could give her higher, but I'm going to unfortunately settle for a 6 out of 10, only because I just think that she's so outspoken, and I think that with her being so opposed to people like Tori and whomever who are very well connected just socially, and then like just their presence within the challenge world, it's going to make it a very uphill battle to climb for Amanda. However, there is a world in which she can win, and if we end up on like a rival season where her partner's Tori, like that's a very realistic possibility. But again, will that come? We don't know. So for that reason alone, I'm gonna give her a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I think. First of all, I'm 100% with you. I think that Zach and Amanda were the people to win Final Reckoning. Now, does Amanda make any money in the end? I don't know. But, Amanda is someone that, despite what everyone says, and by everyone, I mean like the people like Tori and Zach and her naysayers, she continuously shows like these glimmers of success and like the ability to do well. She's really crafty and she'll do well with puzzles. I'll always remember on Invasion when she was doing the Sudoku during the Underdog Purge, and she was like, "Is it right? It's right." It was right. Like she can do these. She can do the puzzles. She's really good somehow at like heights over water missions. We saw this on USA 2. They had like the one where they had to like navigate across these small disc platforms. And then we saw it during the stake challenge on Final Reckoning where she just finished even though Zach fell into the wire. So I think her, as you've alluded to, her problem is like she kind of gets in her own way by being outspoken, which on the flip side, that's why she's always cast. Because she's not going to like sit around and stroke Tori's ego or, befriend Camilla just because everyone wants her to. But I think in like the world where there's a rivals or like ride or dies even, she could get paired with someone that's like super strong but not as good at puzzles, and like they'd be the yin to the yang. Like it would be a good partnership. But I'm going to give her a 5 just because I keep seeing her get in her own way.
Yeah, way too difficult to like really trust that. Like, and I'm not saying that like I don't think that she could win if she's like in the end game, but it's hard to see her getting to the end game because of just she would have to really catch a few breaks. Like All Stars 5 would have been the perfect probably show for her to go on. But unfortunately, yeah. But speaking of Amanda, we're gonna be talking about somebody who she helped kind of ingratiate them into the challenge on his first season. They were partnered up. War of the Worlds 1, Josh. I'm gonna be brutally honest here. I know it's the popular thing to do to jump on the bandwagon of shitting on Josh, and I'm not gonna be that guy. However, I'm gonna be just very straightforward here and say that I don't really see a great chance of him ever winning. But that's not to say that I'm going to like completely crap on him in this analysis. I think he's definitely shown to be a pretty good swimmer. And I'll give him credit in that he's gotten himself in much better shape. But I just definitely feel like he's proven time and time again that when the lights are shining brightest, he gets like frantic and just I think Fessy might have said it best. He's got like 2 left feet. I just don't really see him, even if he reaches a final, I can't even really trust the fact that he would ever win, or I don't know how he would do. But all I have to judge him off of is his 1-7 elimination record, or soon to be. So, yeah, I'm going to actually go with the 3 out of 10 for this one.
Yeah, so here's the thing about Josh. Over the past few seasons, his social game has gotten so much better. He got really far on USA 2. And he made it pretty far on Spies, Lies, and Allies. So I think him making the final is not out of the question. But does he win a final? I don't see it at this point. And he's, like you said, gotten himself in really good shape. I think he will have a very hard time escaping the label of being a layup or the goof, whatever you want to call it, people are going to keep him around because he's a nice guy. Or, at least it seems he has a lot of friends in the game.
Yeah.
But then they're going to throw him into elimination because they think they can beat him. And, like someone like Fessy would never say that, but he thinks it. That, like on USA 2, Fessy was coaching Josh for a hall brawl, not because he thought he was going to face Josh in a hall brawl, but because he wanted Josh to win so he could beat him in the final.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give Josh a 3 out of 10. I think his closest allies will always take him.
Mm-hmm.
Take him out in elimination or the final.
Well, next we got a fan favorite. We got Tina. And she's somebody who she's been to one final, which is Fresh Meat, obviously back in the day. But we've seen her honestly become a staple on the All-Star shows. She's done the last, 3 of them? She did 2, 3, and 4. And then she's now appearing on season 40. And she's another person who, from recent photos, seems to have gotten herself in pretty good shape herself. That being said, though, love her as a person. But I don't exactly have the most optimism for her either ever winning. Not because I feel like she's not socially connected, but I just kind of history has kind of just shown that she's here for a good time, but not a long time. I'm probably gonna go to 2 out of 10. Actually.
Yeah. I'll probably go with a 3 out of 10 for Tina. I like Tina a lot. She's one of my favorites. She's been around forever. I've always liked her, and I still like her, and I still welcome her on the show. I do think that there's a world where she's connected with a Rachel or someone who's just a beast in the competition, where that helps her get farther in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no one that can break TJ out of his host mode like Tina. He jokes around with her more than anyone in the world. But ultimately, I think that she kind of shows up knowing that it's a vacation. When she came on to All Stars 2, she's like, I don't work. I have a husband. I stay home all day. I love my life. And I think that she's just kind of comfortable where she is. And if she can go back and hang out with Rachel and Veronica and make some friends, that's a good time for her. That's the prize.
Well, you can't talk about Tina without talking about Beth. Believe it or not, this might be the one person who might rank lower than Aneesa in terms of their chances of winning, just simply based on the fact that I don't feel like she'll ever get to the end of one of these shows, because just socially, she is just honestly pretty blackballed within the sense of anytime she steps foot on a season. I don't feel like there's ever I don't feel like she's ever going to be able to rectify. She's going to be able to rectify just kind of her social, I guess what you call it, social image, social game, whatever you want to call it. She's just kind of got a reputation that's going to follow her until the end of her doing these shows. And the fact that she's going to be competing with people who are, in some cases, might be much younger. So she's got that kind of working against her too, even, which, isn't everything, but it's definitely it's an advantage. So for that reason, I actually don't give her a chance to win at all. I genuinely don't see it.
Yeah. So from an entertainment perspective, I love having Beth on the show because she speaks a lot of, she brings the rumors to light. She talks, she makes the show entertaining.
Right.
But I do think we did see a very underrated side of her on All Stars 1 because she came back that season and she got along great with a lot of people. And she has really great friendship with Cyrus that's lasted decades. So there is this kind-hearted person that we see during some times or on some occasions. But do I think that's enough to take her to a final and cross the finish line first? I mean, no. I give her a 1 out of 10 as well. am I betting on Beth over Emily Schramm? Like, no. And that's that's who we're seeing on the flagship series now, or
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I don't see it happening, but all at the same time, I welcome her to come back to the show because of what she brings.
Well, this is somebody who I would just honestly, when I'm looking at like the females, people have like their nannies where like they're like kind of like near and dear where they really just so badly want them to win. This is actually my nanny. It's Kellyanne. This is like undoubtedly probably who I just so badly want to see win one from the girls' standpoint because I know she has it in her, and there's been times where it's been like so close. Um, in fact, I think I'm in the camp that you should always have a man and a woman victor on solo seasons, and if that were the case, she would have been the winner of All Stars 1. Or at least, they would have had to have broken it down in some way, shape, or form with her and John A. Kellyanne, I'll give her an 8 out of 10, I think. Possibly. I mean, actually, I'll give her an 8.5. I'll give her an 8.5 out of 10. That's my real... Again, she's somebody where, like, I trust her skill set a little bit more than most on this list. But she's also somebody who I kind of feel like the chips need to fall in the right place for. Social is probably going to be the biggest thing. Like, she needs to end up on a cast where, there's people like there was on All Stars 1. That's kind of like she would benefit from something like that. But if she ends up on a show where it's like the Tories and the, whoever else is of the world, it's going to be a little bit tougher. But I'm going to give her an 8.5.
So she's an interesting person because she's done multiple eras of the show, and she's kind of consistently like made it above halfway, but she hasn't won yet. And I agree with you about All Stars 1. I think ultimately, if there was a female winner, they would have had to break that tie, and I think Kellyanne would have won.
Yeah.
Because I think what they would have done was just scaled the points higher for the last leg, which Kellyanne beat John A in. But that's kind of irrelevant. I would give her probably like a 7. The only thing that I think kind of distracts me from her winning is the fact that like certain things, like we see this on All Stars 3, like puzzles just like can completely cripple her if she's in the wrong state of mind. Like she can get like so far off track. But I mean, Kellyanne is a well-known vegan, and now that the finals offer vegan options, maybe that will be like her. She'll become Popeye on spinach, and she'll be able to cross the finish line. So my advice to her is next time she's on the show, just make sure she asks for that vegan option.
Listen, with these vegans, it's almost like some of the challengers when it comes to Mountain Dew, they perk up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of perking up, we got somebody who, actually, you know what? I'll refrain from anything that's spoiler. Shane. That's all I'll say. Okay. Yeah. So Shane obviously is somebody regarded as somebody who he has the reputation or the label as the best competitor to never make a final, I think, right? Because I think that's a fair assessment. Everybody kind of refers to him as that. There's probably somebody else who hasn't made one that I'm just not remembering, but he's like the most notable one. Yeah. Okay. He definitely has the skill set to win one. He 100% does. The guy's a phenomenal swimmer. You can make the argument that he might be the best swimmer that we've seen, right up there with Tyler and Wes probably. Smart guy. He's definitely got great endurance, great shape. His issues are kind of the same as Amanda, We've seen him make it to the end of games right before like Invasion and Final Reckoning. But he's somebody who, if he were to like touch down in a final, I would have the utmost confidence in him winning. If it was just a straight individual, like assuming that maybe Jordan, CT, people like that weren't there, I would trust Shane against most, honestly, in an individual setting like that. It would just simply be about making the final for him. So for that alone, I'll probably give him like maybe 7.5, 8.
Yeah, Shane for me is like a 9 out of 10. If he comes back, I am very confident that like he can pull it out.
Competitively speaking, I'm with you. I'd solely scaled that back just because like of the social aspect of it. It would depend.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's a really good shot that he will win something, some way, somehow. He, in my opinion, has the greatest return to the challenge that we have ever seen. Like, he came back a different person on Invasion, and he was much better, and he was definitely up for the challenges, and he's another one that's not only able to do puzzles, but he's like really crafty in the game. So I think he has a really good shot of pulling out a victory. But I do think that his social game can kind of get in the way a little bit. The only thing I'll say about that is I just think he's comfortable drawing a line in the sand. Like on Final Reckoning, he got into fights with Johnny Bananas, but Johnny was never going to save him. Like Johnny has 5 other people that he's going to pick before Shane. So why does Shane have to like bend over and, cater to Johnny Bananas? Like it doesn't make sense. So like I don't really see him getting into a lot of arguments that really hinder his game.
Right. Well, we've got somebody who's from the newer era here. We've got Jay Starett, who, for all intents and purposes, you can make the argument was like arguably the main antagonist, at least from the guy's standpoint, on Battle for a New Champion. I mean, you had Cory for a short minute there. That was kind of villain. But I think for the most part, Jay was kind of like the head honcho, mafia boss style on Battle for a New Champion. He's somebody who I feel like has the skill set to possibly win if things go his way. I mean, he's kind of like, from what it seems though, like branded himself in a little bit ways as like being like untrustworthy. So I don't know how that reputation might supersede him in the future. I will say though, the fact that he's not on All-Star 5 and he's not on 40, I think. Wait, no. He's not on 40, right? No. Or is he? Okay, I was just like, I could have sworn he wasn't. The fact that he's not on those shows, though, I think will actually be beneficial to him long term, because I think he would have had a little bit of a stench on him coming off of 39 as kind of like, oh, this guy's like, untrustworthy and a snake. And I think the fact that he's going to have like most likely a pretty decent gap at the minimum if we do see him again, that might help him because, time heals wounds per se. So, and on the right cast, I think he would do well. So I'm actually going to go ahead and give him an 8.
So with Jay, I get like big Devin energy. Like someone, if he wins, he's going to do it by not just like being strong. Like he's going to have to play chess to get to the final. He'll have to move a lot of pieces. But I don't think he's not capable of doing that. I do think he comes in with an automatic disadvantage because people see him as playing a survivor game. Yeah. Which for some reason people just don't like. And I think that that's more so a reflection of the fact that like only 5 or 6 people from Survivor have ever made it onto the flagship show to begin with. But I would probably give him like a 6. He's really good though he's good with puzzles, but he's really good at climbing. That's like his thing. And I think that will serve him well, especially in the daily challenges that get him to the final.
Well, speaking of dailies, this guy for a short minute here on around the War of the Worlds seasons was like a kind of like a daily beast. Paulie, he had that short bit where he made it to the final of Final Reckoning. Questionable whether he deserved to make it or not, but he made it nonetheless. And then War of the Worlds 1, he was doing great in the dailies, and then that last purge got him out at the end, and then we know on War of the Worlds 2, he ran that game before that kind of debacle happened in the final. He's got the skill set to win a final, but we've seen things trip him up on all of his original seasons. And then he obviously came back on USA. It was a different version of himself. So I don't really know. We'll have to see on 40 how he is. Maybe this mellow version of himself might be beneficial. Because if he was explosive Paulie still, I think it would have been tough to see people wanting to keep him around, depending on who was there. But we definitely missed out as fans by not having him on for as long as we did, right at the height of when he was like a villain on the show. So in terms of his chances, I'll probably give him a 7.
Yeah, he's someone that I really can't find anything that's going to completely kill him. He's one of the people I actually think is I would brand him as a silent puzzle assassin. He's good at most of the puzzles, and people don't. I mean, no one's saying that he's shit at them, but no one really gives him the credit for that. But he's good at puzzles. I feel like we're in the era right now where he's not a villain and he's becoming friends with people, but he's no one's best friend, other than maybe Kailah. But so that's only going to get you halfway before they start throwing you into eliminations. And it felt like on USA 2, they were all too willing to sacrifice him when push came to shove. So I think he's working on his social game, and that's going to be his biggest hindrance moving forward. But I do feel like eventually he'll kind of build more solid alliances and friendships, and then when he gets to the final, he's going to be tough to beat.
So what do you give him in terms of
7?
7? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, sticking with the new gen here, we got Michele, who is somebody who I feel like could do well in puzzles, but she's not going to be or finals rather. She's not going to be the best in certain areas, but she's definitely knows how to play the game. I guess I'll give her probably give her a 7 as well.
So Michele, at least as it stands now, I feel like is someone who probably isn't going to do well with the endurance in the final, and that's kind of a big one. That's a big thing to struggle with. Maybe I'm mistaken, but I found that most of the times that they've had mini finals or things like that, she's relied on the checkpoints to do well because she's really good at puzzles.
Yeah.
I feel like she'll be the type of person that if she wins, it's going to be because she's I've seen the show before, and I know days 1, 2, and 3 don't matter at all. So she tanks the first few stages and then conserves all her energy and blitzes past everyone else on the final day. I feel like that's how she'll win, and everyone will be so mad. But I would give her a 5 out of 10 because I do think I think she's good at a lot of things, but her weaknesses are very hard for me to look past.
What about Nurys? And this is another one who, if the wind blows a certain way on a certain day, she probably could be considered or should be considered a champ right now in her own right. This is going to probably be another social one, depending on who's there. I mean, she definitely does play a good social game. I'm going to go ahead and I guess I'll give her an 8 because she's kind of proven that she can make it to the end and for all intents and purposes win, I mean, she didn't win, but she was the
Yeah.
top female. So it's kind of like, in a sense, it's all about doing it again, though. Can she do that again? And that remains to be seen. But because we've seen her basically do it, I'm willing to give her an 8.
Yeah, well, according to Tory Deal, every season has a male and a female winner, and Nurys won Battle for a New Champion. So, in the book of Tory, she is a champion, but apparently
That's
they
what she
don't
said.
count that. Yeah, at the reunion, at the Battle for a New Champion reunion. Um,
Well,
I love Nurys. I think that she's one of the people that I think plays a very smart game and is able to like look at a challenge, and she almost has like this element that you see in Jordan where she can like look at a challenge and be like, okay, this is the obvious way to do it. How do you do it better? And she'll find a way to like kind of adapt and make it work. So I would give her probably an 8 as well. I almost lean towards a 9 because I think that she has a lot of potential. Like she can run, she can do puzzles, she can beat the boys. Like I think that there's a lot of reasons to kind of root for her moving forward. So I'll give her a definite 8 on the higher side.
Well, we got Tony next, who, his time got cut short on All Stars 4, unfortunately, which is a shame because we hadn't seen him since Final Reckoning. But he's somebody who's obviously in great shape himself, and I honestly feel like this might be a hot take. I think that, honestly, had he stayed that entire time, I would not have been surprised if he would have won, honestly. I would have had a tough time seeing people want. I think everybody would have looked at him and liked him. I think they would have honestly viewed him as a strong guy to have around. And I think honestly I could have seen him winning that season if he stayed there, believe it or not. I feel like the best is yet to come, assuming that he continues to keep wanting to, do the show. So I'm gonna actually give him an 8 too.
So he is someone that has definitely improved a lot since we first saw him. And I think, bar none, he's the best at eating things. Yeah. I don't know if that's a title that you want. It's definitely beneficial in this particular franchise, but he can eat things like no one else. So he has a lot of good strengths. I do feel like there are times where he almost has 2 left feet, like Josh. He's a little clumsy with certain things. I mean, he is missing his spleen because of it, so go figure. Although I will say this, in my eyes, he kind of is a challenge champion because he did win champs versus pros versus stars too.
Yeah.
That counts for something in my book.
Okay.
But I'll give him on the flagship. I'll give him a 7. I think he's got a good shot.
What about Kailah? She's somebody who's a bit of a wild card right now because she was so prominent in the beginning of her run, and then she had that kind of break after Final Reckoning for a little bit, but then came back on Total Madness, had a messy season, and then exits again, and then we don't really see her until 38, and she's unfortunately the first one to go home. She was the first, right? She went home first? Okay.
Yeah, the first person eliminated at least.
Yeah, on 38. I don't even know if we ever see her again, to be honest with you. You would think that we do, but at the same time, I feel like if she wasn't on 40, do we see her again? It definitely feels like she's very committed to her marriage. So I think it would honestly boil down to a situation where they would want Sam, her husband, too, maybe, where they both get to go and experience together. And I don't know. I think maybe them two as a couple might be, because people look to pick off, they usually look to pick off couples, you know what I mean? Split them up. So I don't give her as high of a chance as you would think, but you never know. So I'm actually going to give her probably a 6.5.
Yeah, she's someone who she's good at some of the challenges, and she had all the momentum in the world, and then she kind of threw it away to cloud Melissa's eyes on Total Madness. I'm sorry, on
Final
Final
Reckoning.
Reckoning. I mean, I just feel like she's kind of lost the momentum that she originally had, and I don't I don't even know if she'll ever come back. Apparently, like she's making great money on OnlyFans, and that's her thing now. And she was like bitter about the pay scale because her husband made more money. So like I don't know, just bring your husband along and do another show. But regardless of all of that, um, I feel like she just she doesn't really have like the spark to compete, and then like she cheats on puzzles like we saw on All Stars 3. Like it's just not a good look. So I'll give her a 5 because physically she's in good shape, but there there's like a mental sharpness that you need to have to win that I think she's kind of checked out and has been.
Mm-hmm. I totally forgot about All Stars 3. I like skipped over that. Yeah, she made the final.
I think if she comes back, it will be in like an All Stars capacity because it's a shorter filming window. So maybe she has a better chance there, but overall, I'll stick with a 5.
What about Cam? This is somebody who, kind of like opened the forbidden door in a sense of all already the one and like outsiders coming into the All-Star franchise. She kind of is like the one who, poked that.
Ruined it?
Yeah, well, or ruined it, depending on which way you look at it. She's one who's like a little bit more. I definitely feel like with her trajectory before leaving for a bit, she was headed that way, Coming back, obviously, she had delivered a kid not too long before. So, and who knows, I'm sure we'll see her again, but she definitely seems devoted to being a mom now. So her appearances to me are going to be a lot more sporadic if we do see her again. And I don't really know how much time she's going to devote to training or whatever the case may be. She might just honestly be back to wing it, honestly, going forward and rely on her political game and her smarts to carry her, and who knows. So for that, I think I'm actually going to give her a 5 out of 10 too.
So I have a lot of faith in Cam. I was a fan from day one. I think on All Stars 4, she played a game that a lot of people weren't super keen on. Mm-hmm. And I'll agree that there were times where I definitely wasn't in her corner. But I think All Stars 4, she came onto the show and she was playing a game of chess and she was Queen Cam. And ultimately, she was playing because Leroy was the king and she wanted to protect him and get him to the final. I think her end goal that season was to help Leroy get the win. Yeah. Like you said, I do think that being a mom and giving birth, especially because she had surgery, I think she had a C-section. So, that's going to require some recovery. Mm-hmm. But there's no reason that to count her out, down the road because of that. I would give her a 9. I have a lot of faith in Cam. I think she'll have her day, especially if she keeps doing the All-Star shows.
Well, if this guy keeps doing All-Star shows, maybe he'll have his day. Ryan Kehoe, he's somebody who's appeared on All-Stars 2 and 4, and then obviously now is going to be on 40. He seems to be getting very acclimated and socially connected with very, very many people. I mean, he's clearly connected with Olivia now and some newer people. So he's definitely immersed. But with that being said, I don't think I've ever seen anything impressive from him, at any point in time, from a competitive standpoint, whether it be, I don't know. So in that regard, I just don't really have anything that points to me that says Ryan will win a final if he gets there. You know what I mean? He's very much so uncharted territory. So for that, I'm probably going to honestly give him a 4 out of 10.
Yeah, my feeling was a 3 out of 10. His signature move is playing a double agent and then like not winning at the end. We saw this on the island.
It's the same record.
Yeah.
It's a broken
we saw
record.
It on Fresh Meat 2, and we saw it on All Stars 4. Like he rides the middle, and then best case scenario, he's on the losing team. More likely, he gets cut closer to the end. Like people are going to help him be successful in the game
because they don't really view him. They like having him around to talk to, but they don't view him as a threat. So I mean, it makes perfect sense to keep him around.
Yeah. So I just don't see that really changing. But who knows? But as it stands, 3 out of 10.
Yeah. We got somebody who he's close to now is Derek Chavez, and I'm high on him probably, honestly, more so than a lot of people on this list. And I'm actually going to give him a 9 out of 10, truthfully.
Yeah, I mean, this is a rare scenario, but I would say Derek Chavez is someone that would do better on the flagship show than All Stars because he can run. Like, apparently, growing up, he ran in school or something.
He was really track.
Yeah. We see this on the Stadium Challenge on All Stars 4. And he's not bad at like puzzles and stuff. He won a lot on All Stars 4. Granted, people are going to talk about the competitiveness of that cast, but I think he gets to a final with that skill set, and he's going to do pretty well. I would probably give him like a 6, probably a 6, because I still don't think people are going to treat him like a threat. So it's going to be up to him to he's going to have a tougher path to victory. Because people are going to force him to go into eliminations, and he'll have to show up and prove himself.
Well, we've got Jenna next, another one who we'll never know if we'll see her again. I tend to kind of feel like we might not see Jenna ever again, because Zach, who's her husband, has been very outspoken recently about how he's pretty much blackballed for whatever reason. By the powers that be. But Jenna has been getting calls. Zach said that she was called for 40. Another one, though, who's very devoted to being a mom at the moment, though. And for me, you brought up before about Kailah with the lack of spark kind of to compete. I feel like Jenna is in the same vein as that, where she'll compete, but she doesn't have that spark that she had initially with coming into the franchise. That, I mean, she's proven to kind of not be the smartest with certain things, and she doesn't like to eat either. So I'm going to go and, if we do see her again, a 4.5, 5 maybe out of 10.
Yeah, it seemed like for a while she was just getting better with each season.
And she plateaued.
Yeah, I'm not saying this is the reason why. But Amanda came onto the franchise, and all of a sudden, her trajectory went down. Again, correlation does not mean causation, but I think that if she comes back, she just needs to want it. On Total Madness, I didn't really feel like she wanted to be there. But then again, she also probably didn't sign up for the challenge thinking that they were going to throw her in a bunker in the middle of the Czech Republic with no sunlight and no access to clean water. So, I can't blame her that much if she wasn't in tune with that game. But I would give her probably a 5 to win. I haven't completely dismissed her yet because she's someone that I think could fall into the camp of if she's with the right partner and for some reason they seem to give her they could potentially give her a decent partner. Mm-hmm. She'll keep up. She'll run alongside. She'll do work. I don't think she'll do great at eating, but she'll choke it down. Yeah. And I don't think that she's a completely lost cause.
What about Jasmine? We're sticking with the letter J here. Yeah, she's probably somebody who's kind of like, she's always going to have a stigma that follows her because of her stature, of somebody who you're always going to want to, like, if you need, like, in a skull twist, let's say, like, you want to pick your opponent, she's, like, the easy pickings, so to speak. So I'd probably give her kind of like a 2 out of 10, honestly.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were really hard on her during All Stars 4, but
Mm-hmm.
I think they're also going to say the same thing that you just said. Like, she's never going to be viewed as a physical threat. So, like, on All Stars 4, she has to play a social game to get to the end. That is the only real thing she can do. And she's aware of that. But I think that ultimately, even if she makes it to the final, like, the best thing she can hope for is walking away with a consolation prize. So I give her 2 as well.
And then we got somebody who, again, could fall under the category of should he be a champion right now, and that's Steve. The guy's very smart and crafty. He kind of just like he's so like he's a silent assassin though, because he has a very good poker face. I would not want to be standing on anything against this guy, and like I wouldn't want to see him on the opposite end of a Walmart aisle. This guy would destroy me at everything.
His hands are the moneymaker. He doesn't need an expression on his face.
Exactly.
It's a hand mile.
Yeah. I'm higher on him than maybe some others might be. I'm actually willing to give him an 8. Yeah.
If we're looking only at All Stars, I'm with you. 8.
Mm-hmm.
I think he'd have a much harder road on the flagship.
Yeah.
But I also don't see them necessarily calling him for the flagship.
Yeah. Because he doesn't really fit under that category of either. There's young and there's old, but when they cast old, they typically go for like legends and like, well-known people within the franchise. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that there's something on the franchise of bringing back like a well-known old school name like a Rachel onto the franchise, whereas Steve is someone that is going to show up and you're going to be like, who? And then he's going to surprise you with his abilities.
Yeah.
But I definitely think he's rewriting his story right now, and he is emerging as someone, like you said, very crafty, a clever player. So I give him an 8 All-Stars.
And then, we'll round this out with this last person, Nicole Z. Very physical player in the sense that, like, she comes in fit all the time, and she's obviously can run. She's got good endurance because she's a firefighter. But she has got some of the worst just, like, smarts games I've ever seen. We've seen her, like, crap out on multiple finals. I mean, I guess All-Stars 4 is kind of more of a crapshoot, but, like, she just, like, is another one that we've seen kind of, like, not be able to adapt to the mental game. And for that reason, I can't really grade her much higher than a 5, honestly, because all I have to go off of is her getting tripped up over herself and injuring herself on vendettas. And then, obviously, there was the whole invasion thing where I think she just, like, I remember there was a part of the final where nobody wanted to, like, make those beads or something like that.
Like the Time Buster, I don't really remember how she did on that, but I remember in Invasion, there was one of those like triangle puzzles. They're like, how many triangles are here? And there's a bunch of shapes. And she's like, there's 4. And there were like 21. And she was like ready to carry the whole puzzle frame with her because she couldn't do it. I mean, I think physically she's in great shape. She's a firefighter, although I got such a laugh on All Stars 4 when Steve just decided to like spray water in her face so Cara Maria and Ace could just win that checkpoint. I thought that was funny when they like all just targeted Nicole and pissed her off. I would give her like a 7 though. I think that she'll continuously make the final. Like she's someone that isn't going to get like derailed by other things in the game, and she has a really good social game somehow. Like
the dudes love being around her, and then she's just, yeah.
But like in terms of math, like I don't know, she'll lift up her shirt and say that she has 2 more abs than a 6-pack, so she has a 9-pack.
And they'll let her go off the checkboard.
Yeah. Like she can't do numbers at all. She's a twin because she has 2 sisters. You know, like the numbers just don't add up with her. But anyways, yeah, I still think there's a good shot she could win, so I give her a 7. And that's on flagship or All Stars.
Yeah, I feel like she's the same entity on either or.
Yeah.
You know, it would depend her, for me at least, would be like kind of a scenario where if she was partnered up with the right person, maybe. You know.
I mean, I don't even think she has to, like, she's not someone that has to be partnered with like a big beefy guy or something. She just has to be partnered with
somebody to literally solve a puzzle for her. Like literally,
Yeah.
if she had Amanda, she would be like golden. Like anything.
Someone who can calculate a tip at a restaurant. Like that's all she needs, and she'll be able to navigate a final.
Hell, me or you could probably make her a champ. I mean, give us the call. I think we're intelligent enough guys to read a percentage of a tip. You know. I
mean, I've been sitting around waiting for a call, and the only one that's called is you, so that's why I'm here.
Yeah. Well, this rounds out that episode. You know, nice little fun chat about who might or might not win going forward. And, you know, we got some good stuff coming down the pipeline. Perhaps in the future, a more comprehensive breakdown of 40. But, you know, I know we've been bouncing some other ideas, too, that I've been looking forward to getting into. But until next time, guys.
Yeah. Great having you. Great being here again.
Yeah, having you.
Yeah.
All right. Take it easy.
Bye.